everybody who this week used an AI platform like ChatGPT or Google AI or Claude, please raise your hand if you have done that this week already. So imagine that. I'm asking this question a lot, and usually 9 out of 10 hands go up. And this is even more amazing because more than just 2 years ago, that wasn't even very present available for the masses. But if you ask your ChatGPT agent, hey, can you drive my car? Or can you prepare a meal? It will suffer dearly. You said, ask it to taste my sauce. It will not do that. So you need special AI capabilities in order to bring the benefits of AI to restaurants. And tonight we have almost a think tank group here because we have great technologists like from Intel, or we have great restaurant operators. We have different chefs. One I would like to point out is also Chef Bill Kim. You kind of said one time that in our platform that is handling the back of the house, what is happening, PreciTaste AI helps you to prep for the day, run the shift. And you said, well, this kind of taking care of all those daily tasks, it enables me to do what I like to do. And that's being a chef. Also, Chef Michael said something very similar. He said, well, Chef Michael is also here. He said, well, it enables me to actually be in the kitchen and not be behind a desk. And I love those kind of operator feedbacks. And I'm glad to have Danny Meyer here tonight. I'm so honored that our path kind of came together because you were an early adopter to technology. And you kind of started, you needed to explain to everyone what that is with Open Table. And you continue to be, always one of the first ones to adopt technology. And that's not a typical thing in the restaurant industry. Most restaurant operators, might have certain, concerns about bringing technology into the operation. So, Danny, why did you actually start being one of the early adopters in tech?
Well, it's great to be here, and thank you for all of you for being here. I want to be really, really clear, and I've told this to Ingo. I will do a better job of asking him questions about PreciTaste than he will do asking me questions about AI. Just want to be really, really clear about that. I can absolutely bring the hospitality point of view. That's something I've been doing for a long, long time. And I'll answer your question, which is that going back to the year 2000, I was right at the first internet bubble. I had actually this goes back into the 1990s. I had trademarked a business called MD Inc. And happily for the world, we never did anything with it. But I had a technology guy, a marketing guy, and me. And this was before the internet was something that we were all using. But what I wanted to do, I was constantly taking notes on all of our guests. Back in those days, I was on the front door of Union Square Cafe, every single service. I knew everything I could possibly know about everybody. And I learned that the more interest I took in people, the more interest they took in the restaurant. And we called them ABCD so you could ABCD. Always be collecting dots so you can always be connecting dots. And the dots were pieces of information about each of these people. We knew who was, this is before the internet, so you couldn't Google this stuff, but we knew who was about to release a book. We would talk to another guy who was a regular from Barnes & Noble, make sure that that person's book was on the front desk of Union Square Cafe. It got to a point where I said, I can't be here every single shift. I need to automate this somehow. I've got to have a way that anyone who's on the front door, any maitre d', can benefit from all these notes that I have. So the goal of this was frankly as simple as wanting to have a database of all of our guests and all of their preferences. Allergies were not nearly as rampant then as they are now, but still we had people who were allergic to things. We had people who had birthdays. Their birthday didn't change through the years. It was just really important to know that. And so when Open Table and about 5 other businesses that same year, which was about 1999, 2000, started coming to us saying, why don't you give us the chance to do real-time reservations, and we'll have a database so that your guests don't have to wonder what your business hours are when they're calling on the telephone to make a reservation. And at that point, the Zagat survey, if any of you guys remember that, that was the place that New York, it was analog. You got this thing once a year in November, and you would thumb through it with whoever you're going to be having dinner with and said, where do you think we should eat tonight? But what the Zagat survey couldn't do was to say, oh, and by the way, where can we eat tonight? And what I loved about Open Table was it could do both things. It had a marketplace, a database. It could show a consumer, a restaurant goer, where all the choices were, and it could tell them where they could actually get in. What it did for us was to give us a database. So it was a two-sided, we loved it. I did that for 14 years. Open Table got purchased by Bookings, it used to be called Priceline in those days. Board went away, and then we invested in the next one, which was Resy. Resy got bought by American Express. That went away. So then we invested in one called 7 Rooms, and whole different kind of thing, but 7 Rooms, like PreciTaste, is using AI, which I'd like to talk to you about that term, because I think the term itself frightens people. Artificial, we don't like talking about what's artificial in restaurants, yes. Right? So you've heard enough about how I got here, but we're constantly looking in a business that's got razor thin margins, as everyone in this room knows, whether it comes to how we staff the restaurants. You know, we don't want to be caught short on a busy night, so we tend to throw everything we have at it. People-wise, ingredient-wise, we tend to have too many people on a given shift because we don't want to have too few. We sometimes tend to try to get ahead of the cooking because we don't want to be caught short-handed and make people wait. And what does that lead to? Waste, lack of productivity. And so we're looking for the solution. Tell us what it is.
Well, glad to do so. So PreciTaste AI, as we said, is the co-pilot for your restaurant. So I heard a quote like, "Hey, AI, why don't you solve things I don't like to do, like making my tax returns?" And that's what we try to do. We try to stay ahead in the background at PreciTaste AI. And first of all, we read all the predictions. We read the weather forecast for you. We read what kind of pattern the different locations has.
So can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
You read the weather forecast a week out, 2 weeks out?
2 weeks out.
2 weeks out. And where are you getting that information?
We have that in the background, getting that over a cloud service. So you don't actually have to do anything. That is already incorporated.
Well, I mean, right there, I can think of my entire career and think of how many times we've staffed something. And by the way, there are laws in many of our cities where you have to put out the schedule,
yes,
X number of days or weeks in advance. But now, if you can give me that information in advance, that's a huge win.
It translates this information for you too. When you, an experienced operator like you knows, okay, on a sunny day and at my location, I'm in a shopping area where there's like a lot more foot traffic, or maybe I'm having a terrace, right? Obviously, the weather is deeply impacting what I need to do for that day. But many operators, they kind of are stretched thin, and our system is always doing that in the background for you.
Is your system also factoring in holidays, major holidays, minor holidays? We just experienced in New York, and I'm gathering this was across the country, when you have a 2 Wednesday holidays in a row, a pretty big dip in business for a couple of weeks, unless you happen to be in a vacation area, in which case it's a bonanza for you. Are you factoring all that in as well?
It does. It has basically any restaurant that is connected to our system. We see those patterns and how the restaurant manager is reacting to that. We have all this know-how of like thousands of restaurant managers in our software and immediately see from the patterns like, hey, this is an area where there's like a commercial area, the lunch break is very heavy. It's a different pattern on how this restaurant operates compared to someone who is in a shopping area who might have more weekend traffic and more throughout the day. So these different patterns are in the background of the AI. It has the knowledge on how to run your restaurant. And from the stream of this AI agent that we bring to your restaurant in the background, it sees, okay, this pattern is what I've seen before, and this are the actions that we need to do.
How can you feed that pattern retroactively? In other words, let's say I start using, you say PreciTaste?
PreciTaste,
or
yes.
PreciTaste, all right. Let's say I start using PreciTaste, and I've got years and years of experience saying that, this is a really bad example, but every March I sell a lot of corned beef, especially March 17th. How do I feed that kind of level of detail, especially retroactively? Or does it already know that? Does it already know what the patterns are globally for food consumption and beverage consumption? Probably sell a lot more beer on that night too.
It knows a lot in the background. So we know there's more fish in Lent season, and it has those kind of usage pattern in the background. But it also reads what is relevant for your restaurant. And how it does that is we like to get the POS data. So once you install our system, we get your POS data. It could be weeks, could be years of information. Compared with weather data, we get your recipes, and we translate what does certain patterns mean for the kitchen in terms of action items. Because all this information doesn't help you unless the crew knows a little bit better to stay ahead of the curve, to make this guacamole in the morning, or now I need to marinate several packs of chicken. And now this needs to happen in this quantity. Running kitchens is a lot about timings and operations. And this system is basically your co-pilot in the background that has all this knowledge. But it needs a very few things from the location only to apply this and then help you in the restaurant. This is great, especially if you have like multiple locations. If you need to manage several locations. Like Chef Bill Kim, he was traveling in Korea, but he could see what's happening in the crew in his restaurants in Chicago. These kind of remote working capabilities, also more transparency. We see like who in my crew is doing what did Bob do this morning, or Mary didn't show up. These kind of critical management information is something that not only is present now in the system, but is also being delivered to you on time.
Who is generally, at the business level, whether it's a restaurant or an enterprise, who's generally the person who is utilizing the data on a daily basis? When you talk about co-pilot, who's the other person in the cockpit?
It's usually either the shift manager or the chef who is there, who needs to run the show, and who has a crew, and it may be the first day of this crew person, right? And they still need to know what to do. And usually they come to the person and asking a lot of questions. And some restaurants may have whiteboards where people write it down. Some kitchens, are very loud because people are like, "Hey, did you think of that? Did you think of that? Did you think of that?" That is different in a restaurant that is operated with the help of PreciTaste AI. It helps for the crew to stay ahead of time. The people don't need to run to the manager. They see on a screen, okay, these, I'm Bob. I see I need to make the guacamole now, and that's how much of it. And then I need to chop the salad. And from this knowledge, I can just bump it and do it and bump it and do it and just follow the screen. I always like how operators talk about our system. One operator said, "Hey, in your kitchen, stand here in this kitchen. Do you hear anything? No, it's quiet. Because everyone knows what to do, everyone is focused, there's no stress. So the biggest fans are usually the ones who are working with it. I also like another quote of an operator said, hey, your system is taking the suck out of my work. I can be a champion with just using the system. Nobody is going to yell at me because I thought of everything. I have everything done now.
If they had PreciTaste, the bear would not even exist as a TV show.
So when you, what I liked, that you are so early with those technology and you kind of are not afraid to try it. And that became a success factor for you. I see that many operators are careful to, this is technology. Is it, does it really help me? What, should I spend time with that? In this very rushed environment, like, why is it important to take the time to try it and apply it?
Well, let me try to address why I think our industry has historically been slow to adopt technology. First of all, we are a self-selected group of people who lead with our hearts, sometimes more than our heads. We're more about touch than we are about tech. Just historic, big generalization. And as you know, as I said earlier, the very solution that you provide is because our margins are so thin. Because our margins are so thin, there's not a lot of extra capital hanging around to invest in something that you're not sure about. So that's one thing. But the other thing that I think most of us are not sure about is, if I invest in this, isn't something going to take its place in 3 months or less? Maybe I went too soon, and maybe I'm going to miss the boat on something even better. And I don't really know how to address that, because is it called Moore's Law? What's the law where progress just doubles?
Yes, that Moore's Law that's actually an Intel guy, so thank you for Thank
you. Well, I knew that. No, but the fact is we all see that the pace of development is unfathomable right now for any of us. And I don't think that, I'll never forget, we've been slow on a lot of things. We were very slow on putting a loyalty program into place for daily provisions. We were very slow for Shake Shack. In fact, Shake Shack doesn't even have a loyalty program. And historically, the reason for that is that we were always wanting to make sure we didn't miss the next best thing that's around the next corner. So how should we think about that? And is PreciTaste, for example, something that we can grow with, that it's not going to become obsolete, that someone else is not going to overtake it, that Google isn't going to figure out something, or OpenAI isn't going to figure out something that makes our investment with PreciTaste? And that, by the way, I could ask that question of anyone in your shoes. It's not specific to you, but that's the kind of thing, the mentality that I think a lot of restaurateurs have.
Yes.
Starting with the fact that we're Luddites to begin with. Yeah. Some of us.
So those general platforms are very impressive. And how do they get to these impressive features? Because it started with just an autocomplete in maybe your Google headline. You Google something and it predicts you like what next word you're putting in there. And with those humble beginnings, we saw a drastic improvement, right? Suddenly I can talk to an AI, and although it's still the same principle of forecasting something, of what they think the answer is. And we see those impressive improvements. How did it get there? Well, first of all, you need a lot of computers, so a lot of server farms, and you basically need to throw all the data available in there to generate AI agents or chatbots or anything that can generate those responses. But you can only do that if you actually have the training data. So the training data is, you could say, a source code, like for software, is what training data is for AI. You need to be in the operations get the data from the restaurants, get the Vision AI pictures. You need to label that. You need to tell this AI, hey, this is a burger, and this 5 ounce, and or this is a tomato, and it's diced and sliced. And these operational information is very important for being able to help someone.
How long does that take me to do?
Well, we have done that for you already. So that's that's the beauty of it, because we have been around since 10 years and have been now establishing the largest data set in the food service industry. That is not public data. So this data is very specific. Like nobody else is looking at scooping events. Why is that important? Because you need to understand the restaurant operations. And if you don't understand that, if you're just a generalist, right, coming in, you say, well, that is tomato. That doesn't help the chef, right? He knows that it's a tomato, but knowing what to do with it and what the timings are, this is where it becomes helpful and where you can benefit from your digital companion, your digital manager who is sitting next to you and helping you and helping the crew to stay ahead of time and run your restaurants extremely efficiently. Because if you cook to needs, you're always cooking fresh. That's when the food is best, but you also have less tasks. And if you have less tasks, you have less work, you have less stress. If you're on time, you have less stress. So it's optimizing. You have this math geek now that is sitting in the background, is always optimizing, like, hey, don't do too much and don't do too little. Because if you do too much, it sits there and it's getting old. Nobody wants to eat old food. So eventually it gets discarded, and then you have food waste. And half the food we grow almost.
Because the math geek knows exactly how long it took to create that mise en place.
Yes.
By this person.
Yes.
And does it, we have a different schedule, Jimmy's not always on the garde-manger every single day of the week. Does my co-pilot know that when Janet is on, it's actually taking less time than it takes for Jimmy?
I heard that a lot, that you can actually, because you see, okay, this is Mary's task, so Mary bumps it, said, I'm doing that, bumps it again. So you kind of help, you see like who's responding to which task. So if you are actually the chef in the kitchen, you can say, hey, you can start rearranging your kitchen and say, hey, Bob, would you like to take care of this task? And Mary, you do this one. You can really, it gives you a way to communicate with your crew better. And even if you're not there, right? If you're having multiple restaurants, it's getting very difficult to be at all your locations at the same time. But now you have this at the palm of your hand and say, okay, this location really started up well. And here, maybe I should go here, there, or give them a call. So I see that the industry is changing a lot as well, because customers are very new to new products. They want to have very complex, healthy menus. What do you see the restaurant industry is trending to in terms of what you're offering?
That's a tough question. I've always had a tough time with the question about trends. We've certainly gone through trends over time. Smaller portions, retro food, it all kind of, that stuff goes in waves. I've been around long enough I saw the wave where it was all mesquite grilling. I saw the wave where it was all architectural presentations on the plate. I saw the trend where it was all vegetable reductions for sauces. That stuff changes all the time. I think that the one thing that never changes is people craving hospitality, people wanting to know that you're happy to see them. And I think that any kind of technology that can help, which I think you do, to keep more of our managers and more of our people on the floor and out of doing the kind of tasks that we now know machines can probably do even better than we can. That's a big win for our guests, because they're always going to want to know that someone sees them and is happy to see them. So that's thing number one. I wouldn't call this a trend, but I would definitely call this an acceleration. And that is, I have no question, I alluded to this earlier, but I have no question in my mind that the number of people who have dietary needs, it could be an allergy, the desire to customize things either based on their own safety, if it's a serious allergy, or the fact that, what technology has done for everyone is to make us believe that the whole world is customizable. And so I think anything that can help us know more about our guests and customize things based on their needs. And by the way, this gets back to what I said earlier. If someone is anaphylactic at one of our restaurants, they're anaphylactic at all of our restaurants. And so the more we can know about that, and then that helps us know what to produce and what not to serve, that's a big thing. And anything that can help us be safer is a really big thing. Food safety, again, I wouldn't call it a trend, but our whole industry rises and falls on people's trust. Think about it. How many other businesses do you just implicitly trust that you can put their product into your body and you're going to live? And then on top of it, be really happy. That's what we're selling. And, the ground zero is trust and safety. So anything that we can do to do that, because that stuff's only accelerating.
Yes, we see that in many restaurants. And the more dietary needs, means complexity for your kitchen operations. It's very difficult to scale these more modern offerings or more complex menus. And we see that a lot of our operators who have very healthy aspects like farm to table, they like very much to use our system because it's the first one that allows you to scale it. Many of the large scale restaurants, they rely on very basic items that are very fail-safe, like burgers and fries, and it's great to have that. But once you start to have a broader offering with more options, it's getting very complex quickly. Especially, in your restaurants, you have a changing environment, workforce, and it's also difficult to find good labor. So, what is your perspective on, finding the right staff, and what's your grief if that staff is leaving, right?
Was that a question or a statement?
That was a question.
Oh, shoot. That was the toughest question. I was hoping it was a statement. Look, I think it gets back to what you said, which it is, we all know that, especially even going into the pandemic, but certainly after the pandemic, really, really hard in our industry from a standpoint of attracting enough people to actually run this industry. And I think employment's definitely much better now in our industry than it was, but we certainly don't have enough wiggle room to be wasting employees because they're not productive enough. We can't afford to overhire. Can't afford to underhire. It's, talent in restaurants, labor, is a lot like salt in the hands of a chef. Too much is wrong and too little is wrong. You got to get it just right. So anything that can help us be much more efficient and productive there is going to win for us.
So what advice would you give to operators who are on the fence to adopting AI or trying it?
Just buy PreciTaste. It's so easy. In all seriousness, I would just say I got the best advice in the world. And again, I think that the name AI frightens a lot of people. It helped me to do two things. I got good advice. The guy, when I said, I don't know what I don't know, I'm just going to stay away. He said, start calling it machine learning, because you get that, and just dive in the water. And he said, the very first question you asked today, he said, pick something that you find really easy. In my case, it was ChatGPT. He said, just get comfortable using ChatGPT, but dive in. Because as soon as you dive in, you start to learn, and you start to learn that you're not scared. And then you also start to learn about applications you never dreamed were possible. I mean, we all remember the first time we Googled something, and I think that was probably like 2002 or 3. I forget what the year was, but it was basically, oh my gosh, it's like an automatic Yellow Pages. But that had nothing to do with autofill. That had nothing to do with so many of the things that Google does for you today.
Yeah.
So it's just dive in. That's my advice. And stop being afraid of, maybe I'm the only one who's afraid of, I'm not afraid philosophically of the term AI. I just don't really know what artificial intelligence meant. But I could get comfortable around something for me that worked, which was machine learning. I can understand when you say that your machine, my co-pilot, can learn all this stuff that would take me forever to learn, and then spit it out in a digestible form that allows me to be better at the stuff I'm better at. And all joking aside, it's like, you're not going to replace my palate with a machine. You're not going to replace the warmth of eye contact upon welcoming someone to a restaurant with a machine. But anything you can do to allow us to spend more time doing those two things, tasting really good food and welcoming people really warmly, while you do stuff that even better that we only wish we could do, that's a win.
I couldn't have said this better. It's in preparations you said it's enabling, right? So how do I get the AI into my restaurant? Well, we are the platform that is enabling that and is bringing the powers of the digital services in the day-to-day work and trying to make this a step better and improve the customer experience from having the food available at the right time, having it fresher available, and with a good feeling like, hey, this restaurant, if I know if they use PreciTaste, there's zero food waste that is happening because everything is managed in the background. So that's where we are thriving for, and we're happy to talk more about this with the group here tonight, and happy to hear the different perspectives of tech people, restaurant people, operators, chefs coming here together tonight, and how the next steps we can do together in this fast-evolving environment.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.